Hello,
Hi.
What up?
and welcome to Does It Suck with Nick, Lance, and Amber. So this month was my pick, and I had a couple rattling around. I decided to throw out Ultraviolet as a kind of... It's technically a vampire movie insofar...
That is a correct definition.
Insofar that 21 days later got picked up by the zombie community, despite the director saying they're not zombies, and everyone else being like, dude, they're obviously zombies.
They're rage-infected monkey zombies.
Well, they're not zombies because they're not dead. They're still living people, and they don't eat people. They just beat the crap out of them.
But it's still zombies.
But they're still zombies because it's the same. You get infected.
But to be fair, propaganda in Ultraviolet did call it vampirism, so therefore vampires.
Yes, it is. When I was looking up the top 100 vampire movies, this movie was indeed on there, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was a vampire movie, wasn't it? And knowing that I had it on DVD from back in late 2000. Like, I think I don't remember if we went to the theaters to see this one. I might have, or I might have just bought it on.
I remember my first exposure, the very limited bit that I recall of it, was in our old house.
Yeah.
While I was playing computer games. So
We stumbled upon Equilibrium, and we were like, oh, okay, Equilibrium. I'm not going to say anything because, we might do a review of it one day.
Yeah.
But we stumbled upon Equilibrium, and then we found out that Ultraviolet was...
Same director.
Yeah, same director, and we were like, oh, let's check this out. Because I remember watching it at the old house. I don't remember watching a lot of it.
Yeah, you're probably playing WoW at the time or
Probably.
something. Yeah.
But yeah, but I do remember watching it.
Okay, so I guess before we get into the spoilery bits, we'll start it with our score, because then we're going to talk about the movie. The unrated extended cut in particular. I was trying to read it on the monitor because I can't see it from here.
Yeah.
I can see it right there. It says unrated extended cut.
Yeah.
So you're good.
So this version specifically, I've heard that the theatrical version is not as sought after and desired. So I guess take that with a grain of salt. But we'll be reviewing this version of Ultraviolet.
This DVD is worth $300.
$3 whole dollars. You missed $3 whole dollars.
Doll hairs.
All right. So Amber,
Yes.
on a scale from 0 to 10, what would you give Ultraviolet?
I've kind of gone back and forth in my head a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Action sequences are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The graphics, I both love and hate.
Suck.
There's a lot to be desired, but at times when you understand the thematic reason and resonation of it, it works, but at the same time it's still janky.
Yeah.
But overall, it's very predictable too, but overall, I enjoyed it, so I'd give it a 6.
Okay. I figured you'd be like, eh.
I give it a 6. I would watch it again. Maybe when I'm not as tired as I am right now, but my child doesn't sleep past 4:30 a.m. lately, so, mom's tired.
All right, Lance, what about you?
Oh, it's my turn? Okay.
Yeah.
How many people did she kill in this movie?
Probably, would they say that last
There were
building had-
700.
Well, no, I guess don't, spoiler, a lot.
It's like Hot Shots Part 2 level, right?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like ultra-violent.
I was going to make that joke, but I didn't.
We were all going to make that joke. It was a race to who made it first.
I got to it first.
I thought it would be inappropriate for me to say it immediately after Nick introduced it. Because that's when I was going to do it.
So, yeah. I'm not... I will go into stuff as we talk about it. I would give this movie a 5.
Hey!
Yeah. So...
That's kind of where I figured people would be with this movie.
Well, how about you, Nicholas?
It's okay. I'm going to give it a 6. I think there's enough interesting stuff in it that's like, hey, this is cool. And then there's enough in it going on with it you're like, this is kind of boring. And you kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think with a slight notch towards the beginning with a few things I do like. Like, I enjoy a stupid movie with Mila Jovovich in it, of which there are plenty to choose from.
So would you care to reassess to a 7, maybe?
No. It's because it's.
Hey, do not take away from the one time in a very long time that I got both guesses correctly.
Yeah. It is a 6 in that it's kind of in the middle, but middle positive, so a 6.
He's like, I was off on both of you by 1.
Yeah, no, it's just I suck at this game now.
All right, so I guess from here on, we'll be talking about like what's going on in the movie. So if you want to see Ultraviolet, I mean, I think it's interesting and worth a watch. Maybe as a vampire movie, maybe not. If you're like in here for like, man, I want to watch some really cool vampire sequences, you're not gonna get any of that here. It is technically a vampire movie, and that's about where
technically it's a technicality.
Yeah,
it's a technical foul.
It gets in on the technicalities.
I got you with that one, Lance.
Bitch.
So I guess if you do plan to watch this one, get out now before we start spoiling it. But like Amber said, I don't know that this is a plot that's super like hard to chew through.
Yeah.
All right, that's plenty of time. Click away. All right, so
you still here?
I probably am.
So the movie is graphically weird, but it's a stylistic choice. I think in the beginning credits they show like comic books.
Yes.
And this is not a comic book, but I think it's all a choice in that kind
to make it like a comic book.
Yeah, where it's kind of got that like someone didn't wipe the lens. Like everything's got that sort of haze. I guess now it would be a TikTok filter or a Instagram, whatever the kids are on nowadays.
Whatever them kids are on.
To kind of blast detail away from the face. Presumably because, like when you make a comic book, you're not drawing like pour.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like give one solid color with like fading for shading or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think
that's kind of what they're going for. Is that kind of...
I mean, I can see where you're going with that, but like at the same time, this movie is so heavy when it comes to like the computer graphics and stuff like that for stuff they're trying to do. Where I think someone sat down with a script and they're like, okay, it starts here with her doing this, and they're like, okay, I can do that. Okay, then she's gonna ride her motorcycle inside the building. She's gonna fucking what? Yeah. No, she'll ride it, and then they're gonna be shooting the glass. Okay, special effect note on that. You're gonna have to load guns with imaginary bullets. Imaginary bullets. Okay, you're gonna have to change the color of her clothing. Change color. Okay, then we're also going to need you to do this. Like, there was so much graphic intense stuff in this movie that I think someone was like, we have a budget of like $8,000, right? And they're just like, let's just haze everything.
No, I don't know.
I don't think it was quite that. I do feel like that this was a way to maybe lessen some of the overall CG. But I think the problem is that the backgrounds in a lot of the major CG shots, because it was a CG background on a thing, the background was made to look kind of flat.
Yeah.
So it looked like a comic book, and so the CG stood out as recognizably bad CG.
Yeah.
It didn't blend, and then so you have these weird shots, but then you would get some really amazing shots, like at the end of the movie when they're walking away on the rooftop. Mm-hmm. You see it kind of start blending into a comic book cell, and so the way it was done, and there was a couple of shots where sometimes it almost felt like it had blended from live action into an anime, and those were cool.
Yeah, and I would visualize that as being comic booky or whatever.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like when she's driving on the side of the building, whatever, the most important thing in that shot is like what's going on here. Mm-hmm. So the background is kind of like if you're drawing a picture or whatever, and the focus is on the character, the background's whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas like the final shot where it's her and the kid, they're silhouetted.
Yeah.
And the focus of that shot is the background, so that had more effort put into it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of... Everything kind of seemed comic panelly to me.
But when she was riding on that motorcycle, her hair did not have the necessary physics to support her driving on the sides of motorcycles, whipping at fast speeds.
Couldn't afford the fans. Jesus Christ.
Hair physics. Invest in them. This is one of my major complaints in video games, too, is that the hair physics don't work properly.
Right. She was riding a motorcycle down the side of a building with 2 helicopters. Her hair would have gone...
Yeah.
You would have never been able to see her face.
Yeah, but they could have done more. It wasn't moving enough to suggest the speeds when it was the fact that it was down.
Yeah, it didn't even have the Superman blowy or whatever, where you kind of got like the cape blowing, but not as much as it would be whipping back and forth.
And just the curl going.
If it was actually,
Yeah, it was... I noticed when the hair physics don't seem to match up because it's a common gripe of mine in a lot of video games is hair physics.
Yeah. I mean, as long as if the hair has physics, I'm more happy than like when you play like Mass Effect or whatever and everything looks super gelled hair. And that's kind of...
Oh, I hate that.
And it's kind of like when they move their head and the hair just kind of moves with it like it's a hairnet.
Yeah.
I like that.
I
think it looks great. It's like a meat helmet.
It works for some hairstyles, but usually not the feminine ones.
Yeah. It's better than what we had, like, I guess, 4 years ago when the person would move, and then, like, the hair was, like, it's, like, straight line. Like, it was, like, straight pixels that were connected by one that would bend, so it was, like, like little lightnings. Yeah, no, it looked bad.
Yeah, no, they are still working on playable character hair physics that seems realistic.
But water physics?
And also that doesn't doesn't fry your computer.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that there's like, it's cosmetic, so they're not going to invest a lot into it yet.
Water physics, we are there, baby. You figure if they got water, that they could do hair. I was like...
Not really.
Water, the way it flows and moves and like...
Sure, but if you put something on the ground that's kind of flowy, you're going to be whatever. But when we see people like every day, and like the way things fall is like super noticeable to us. Like when you make something close but not quite on a person, that's why it sticks out more. It's because of the uncanny valley, as it were. So if you make hair that is moving a little bit so that it's somewhat realistic, but it's moving weird. Like I know sometimes, I know you play Tomb Raider at least, and there are some times in which it cuts to a frame or whatever, and her hair is like going, and then it settles into its physics, and you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, there's video game hair physics is just one of my major complaints. That, and the modding communities, for a lot of the games I play, they're amazing, but at the same time, I can't stand like half the hairstyles that they do because for me they're not realistic for the genre or the type of characters I would play. So I'm just like, no.
It's like when I'm playing Skyrim or whatever. A lot of the mod hairstyles you would get are like super anime hairstyles or whatever. I'm like, that's not, or super glam.
That's the ones that I see a lot in like Dragon Age and Mass Effect, which if that's how you envision your character, all for you. But for me, I'm like, that is not how my character, it's not realistic for a fantasy setting, and it is not realistic for I am a commander of a military vessel in a super science fiction age.
Since we brought it up, Amber, what would you rate her hair in this movie, 0 to 10?
I would probably give it a 7. I really liked her hair most of the time.
Her hair is pretty
I really liked the color changing physics on it.
How about you, Nick?
I mean, probably likewise. I like the hair. It was neat. It reminds me.
I liked her clothes too. I liked how they kept changing all that.
Yeah, it reminds me of in Shadowrun. There was a cybernetic hair that you could have implanted or whatever you could change the color of it, and it could even be like super weird hair or whatever. Like you could have your bucket style hairstyle or whatever, but then playing ads on the back of your head because it's microfilament, so you could pour light through it and kind of turn your head into a billboard.
Buddy had that hair.
Yeah. Yeah, but he used it to make it realistic colors.
Yeah,
you could use it in that sort of weird cyberpunk sort of way where you're like having like the light streaking through, or you're playing like a video game on the back of your head or whatever.
If Buddy would have like had a sponsor, he'd had Snickers rotating around his head the entire time. I would give her hair a 2 because it was an obvious wig, and it was pretty bad. Thank you for coming to our hair review.
I didn't think her hair was that bad.
If you've seen any other movies with like equally bad wigs, just put them down in the comments.
Okay.
Samurai Cop.
Samurai Cop.
At one point in time, they did a reshoot, and he had long hair in the movie, but then he cut his hair because it was done. Then when they did reshoots, they put a wig on him.
Any Guar video.
Blood Rain had some pretty terrible wigs.
We'll wait till we get to Blood Rain 2. That one's still on the table.
Welcome to our new channel, Wiggin' Out.
Listen, we watched something not too long ago, and there was like a really terrible wig in it for like a good chunk of it.
I don't remember.
And I complained about it the whole time, I think.
It's probably Blood Rain.
No, it wasn't Blood Rain. It was something else. It was...
Back to this video.
I'll have to think about it.
So, this movie was good.
It's pretty good.
For some reason, I remembered it being a lot better. But then again, we watched that movie 10 plus years ago.
Yeah. We probably would have watched it in 2008, maybe. I think this movie's 2006. We probably watched it a couple of years afterwards.
Okay.
It was probably the last time I watched it. I just remember it being visually interesting.
Yeah.
The style being kind of hard to get used to, but once, like, after you watch it for like the hour or whatever, you're kind of like used to how fuzzy it looks.
The fuzziness didn't bother me too much. Like I said, I got used to it. It kind of worked for how they kind of stylized it, but the action sequences really stood out as like just super enjoyable.
Yeah, that was the fun bit. And I guess that's one of the things I liked about this movie. I like the fight scenes are fun. I like the what they call it, flat space or whatever. That
was cool.
Where they got like extra dimensional spaces where they can hold their things. Like that guy's Garth, his lab was in an extra dimensional space.
Mm-hmm.
Had extra dimensional spaces
places
in
to store children.
No, yeah, you could carry your children in a water backpack.
That was a bit much. It's like, here, we need you to take this waffle across town. She's like, waffle, what's in the waffle? They're like, don't look in the waffle. She looks in the waffle, and it's a floating kid faced in torso. And that really unsettled me the first time I saw it. I was kind of like, okay.
So the movie opens up. And you're getting the backstory on the character, Ultraviolet. She's basically was a pregnant woman who got turned into a hemophage, which is their version of vampires, who was experimented on, tortured. Her baby got killed in utero, is what she tells you, and then she escaped. And then she's showing up at this facility. There had been like an attempted like robbery at a blood bank at the very beginning of it, but ultimately it played zero actual role into the film other than as a passing reference of, the blood bank heist failed. Yeah. That was the only part of it. They didn't say why they were there, nothing. And then, so she's breaking into this facility and she goes to get this backpack. And my first thought was, as soon as she gets this package she's got to deliver that she's not allowed to look in, I'm like, well, that's obviously going to be a child. No reason for me to expect that other than the fact that, this woman had a baby that she lost in utero and they went out of great pains to say, they killed me and they brought me back, but my baby didn't come back either. And it's like, okay, well, so it's either her baby, it's either going to be a surrogate child, her baby, or some kind of derivative of her baby. There's only 3 things that could be in that. It all involved her having had a pregnancy.
Which I guess it not being her kid was kind of
a little bit of a loop.
Yeah, which is kind of the thing I was expecting. Yeah. And then it just ended up being a clone of the main villain. Yeah. And it was just kind of she was meant to be a mother. Now she's come across as a kid, and she needs to.
And so she'll get that last tattoo.
Put that maternal instinct in her last 2 days on Earth. Yeah. And she was like, "I'm dying in 2 days or whatever."
Yeah. So, and the most unsurprising of twists, the big bad was really a hemophage all along.
They at least hinted on it slightly. Him being super quick and him being just fine in the dark room.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, even before that, it was just the guy who's super paranoid about catching it, he's already
got it.
I like that he had the nose filters, but then nothing on his mouth.
Yeah. I guess it's maybe since you have to smell it, you want to smell the clean air, not the...
I guess, but the other thing that can constantly fucking distracted me on that was it was perfectly in his nose, and the next shot it's slightly hanging out the left nostril, and then the next shot it's almost completely falling out, and he started talking kind of fast, and I think it was because he's like, "Fuck, this thing's falling out," and so they cut away, and he could shove it back up there.
This movie has some 2020 fashion chic in it, with a bunch where you see shots of people walking down with masks and whatever. I remember back in 2008, you're like, "Oh, wow, imagine a time in which everyone is walking around wearing masks." Wouldn't that be crazy?
Little did we know.
Especially masks to match your fashion. I'm wearing a red shirt today. I'm going to wear my red mask today.
To be fair, I always just wore my N7 mask because why wouldn't I be Commander Shepard every chance I got?
That was so quick on the hotels of that. And they're everyone wear masks. And the next thing you could print up anything you wanted to.
You still have your...
It's in my pocket all the time.
Oh, yeah. And just in case you need it?
Just in case I need it. How about that?
Yo.
I would have to go to my bedroom to get mine.
I'd have to go into my truck to find mine.
I know I could talk super well for the button. But it's always in my pocket just in case. But I had the mask that worked, but then you're like, these are going to be around for a while. Might as well get a fashionable one. And now if it's this is just your life, and you might as well have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I thought I had my Rocky Horror one back here somewhere.
You did, but I don't know where you moved it to.
Oh well.
Behind the shoe.
Nope.
Right. And then I remember even walking, there were some people walking around with had the mask right underneath the nose. I'm like, I know you motherfuckers.
Yeah, y'all lazy. Just pull it up.
Pull it up. That's the problem area. Well, I guess that's one of the problem areas.
Yeah. The way people wearing them right underneath the nose.
Right underneath.
So the mask is to prevent your spit particles from going out, but you cover your nose so you don't inhale somebody else's spit particles. So you're protecting other people from you possibly having germs, but you're just willingly to breathe it in, so you'll contract it sooner. It's
Which even I think the people with the weird full-on face shields had it right, because apparently you can get it from a teardrop.
Oh.
Whereas that one guy when she's walking through the facility had that whole. It was like a goggle face shield combination.
Which we had those too.
Oh yeah.
I had people at work who had one of those. Yeah.
People who are like, I don't want my face to be covered, so I'm going to wear this entire fucking thing.
Yeah, I have a coworker. She wore a face shield. It just slid right here over her thing like a little hit, and she was more comfortable that way. it wasn't compressing on her face, and she could, be compliant with work rules. Because we did have work rules at my place of employment.
Yeah. And now just imagine how quickly everyone would be a hemophage if that came out like now.
Yeah, society would be doomed. More so than it already is. Yeah. We were actually having a discussion earlier about how, like, this current timeline we live in, like, when did everything go wrong? And everything points back to Harambe.
Oh, really?
Everything really started going wrong after Harambe.
If you go back and look, as soon as Harambe died is when shit started falling like dominoes. But someone was quick to point out the other day when I gave that theory, and they were like, well, things had already been going wrong before. Not as catastrophically as that. We miss you, Harambe.
Never forget.
Yeah. Bring me to your timeline. Bring everybody to your timeline, please. It's got to be better than the one we're stuck in now.
Well, now on Sunday you'll get to go see the Transformers movie by Michael Harambe.
All right.
Because it's got a big monkey in it.
Nope. Not going to do that.
So, in the very technical sense, this disease makes you a vampire and that your canines are elongated. You are slightly stronger and faster, but apparently if you're Violet, you're just like superhuman because she's the main. I think it's less of a vampire thing and more of she's an action hero thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vampire stuff played very little role in this, other than the fact she's just super fucking fast.
They had blood transfusions. Maybe if she had kept the device, because it seemed like she got rid of the gravity device when she turned in the package.
She turned in the package. She slapped
and so maybe if she had kept that would have made a little bit more sense. To suggest that she's got some technical augmentation going on too, because that was how she was defying gravity and all that. So
I wonder if it's just because they've shown several times like close-ups on her ear and like her listening and people making sounds. It's just she's so her senses are so heightened.
Maybe because she didn't get light sensitivity, she got bat sensory kind of stuff.
Well, I think it was implied that she was like vampire fucking fast for the fact of she was listening for everyone. She heard the guy, his hand was switching, and as soon as he pulled the trigger, it gave you not only him pulling the trigger, which she was probably listening for, but the bullet was coming out of the chamber, to which she dodged, and then it hit the guy on the other side. So, like, she had to have been like ultra fast.
She had preternatural speed, and I think her auditory senses were also just super heightened too. And with that, since she didn't have the visual acuity.
And this movie loves putting people with, like, you've got a submachine gun or whatever. Everyone, she's right there. Let's all surround her at point blank range and point our guns directly at her, and therefore ourselves should she like duck.
Yeah, let's get in a circular standoff. Yeah,
and then that way she could do like with the sword real quick, and we'll all get decapitated.
Right.
Now, what I loved about that one scene when all the guards like basically came in on her, and she did the, and then like all their heads flew, is I loved that they were like, all right, everyone charge in, take your marks. Mila, this is where you swing the sword. Okay, here, you have a mannequin head. When you fall, just throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah, the bodies on the ground still had heads, but you see like the shape of a head come off the people when they were going down.
Yeah, because they all just fall down and the heads go bloop. And Nick was like, damn, heads be flying. And then they're just laying there, and it's like, I guess they all just rolled back to the bodies. Not sure.
But I did like that scene for, like, Kid is holding, like, they're fighting like in a place with a big clog or whatever. Yeah. Kid's hanging above a well, and he knows like how dope she murders people, so he like kicks his shoe off so she can like time how long it takes.
Because he knew in order to save him, she would have to let him fall.
Yeah, he's gonna get dropped. So here you go. I'm gonna kick my shoe off. You know that you've got like 10 seconds before I hit water, and then she like starts kicking ass, and when the time he comes to finally drop him, she's got 10 seconds.
Good thing he didn't Gwen Stacy at the end.
I know. Well, I guess it was a good thing. It was a good thing she didn't like stop it in place. Otherwise, she might have pulled his arms up.
Yeah, just like wrists come up with little balled up hands.
But I totally almost made the Gwen Stacy joke while we were watching it.
But because of the smoke hands or whatever, he got decelerated or whatever.
Well, it's that part for me was agonizing, because you're going to go through the whole thing of like, I'm going to kick the shoe off, you do the timer, then I fall in the well, and then like the fight between her and like 30 other people in the room, and then the chode knocker that was holding onto the rope.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was agonizingly more than 10 seconds because it's like, ting, ting, ting. Ting 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 ting, and then she had to go to the next wave. Ting ting ting, and then the chode knocker had to jump up and do the flourish. I would have at least tried to make it like bullet time almost.
It was in slow mo.
It was still slow mo in a lot of that.
It was normal slow mo.
Yeah, so they were playing with the time because you could hear the clock in the background, and sometimes you had to listen for the clicks of the second handed. Sometimes it would be immediate, and then sometimes it would be drawn out.
I'm just saying, it was 10 seconds. She got through it in 6 seconds because it took her 4 seconds to stop the kid.
All of her flash super speed moments are done in slow mo, where it's just like 1 second takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, she's got the speed force, apparently.
I'd like to see the Agent Smith stuff on that stuff where it's like, something happens, you have to go super fast, and you do like the 3 images of like the dodging because it's so fast. It's almost like watching a fan, and it looks like it's skipping when you're looking at it.
That's not how they chose to do it in this one.
Well, I mean, that's fine. It was 2005. I'm sure that the capabilities of like animation and stuff like that was somewhat limited for the pie in the high movie that they were trying to shoot here.
Matrix
But
is 99.
Yeah,
but that movie had wads of money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
I would really truly, I can't look it up because
Is it on? Do they put the money on IMDb? Or do they put it on?
I'm not sure, but usually they have like what kind of budget this movie was working off of, and this is how much it made in the theaters, and that's why we won't see a second one.
Yeah.
And we will not see a second one of this movie.
Although apparently, after we finished the movie, I looked it up on IMDb and kind of flipped through the trivia or whatever. Apparently, it was popular in Japan because there's an anime sequel of it.
Oh.
Called Ultraviolet, like Code 44 or something.
Ultraviolet Code Pink.
Ultraviolet Code 044.
Interesting. Sounds like a Mountain Dew product.
And it takes place in 2140. So
Wow.
I think the other one we watched was like 2073, 2076, something like that.
Interesting.
So I'll have to see if I can track it down, mostly for my own efficacy, because I don't think we'll bring it here, because I don't think this movie's popular. But it was interesting.
It's good. I mean, I did like it. Wait, which one came first, Equilibrium or Ultraviolet?
Which Equilibrium than Ultraviolet.
Okay. All right. We have to find a way to do Equilibrium.
Yeah, I can pull that one up at some point. So since I've got IMDb up, do we want to do that now?
Sure.
Since it's right here.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this one is the point number. What do you think IMDb gave Ultraviolet?
4.8.
Okay. Lance?
5.7.
That's 4.3.
Fuck.
But we can skip Metascore because there's only 19 people, and it's not a very good sample size. We'll go to Ultraviolet. There's 82 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh wow!
What do you think the critics gave it, Lance?
Me first?
Yeah. Well, she did the first one.
3 point.
No, it's a whole number.
Oh, it's a whole number.
Like
percentage.
1 to
1 to
100.
100.
31.
Okay.
26.
9.
All right.
They gave this movie a 9%.
Wow.
I
Somebody
figured it was
really
low.
doesn't like Mila Jovovich. Wow. Okay.
Amber, what do you think the audience score is?
39.
Okay.
47.
That's a 30.
Yeah.
I suck at this game.
Oh, yeah. You
Normally, I'm really bad at this game. So.
Yeah, but 9. I looked at that, like 82 reviews. So again, it's small sample size. I'll tell you the Metacritic just because it's right there. 18
Wow.
Out of 100.
out of 100.
Holy
But
shit.
with 19 critics. So I think 4.3 is probably a good gauge for it.
How did we land on this movie? Like, did we wonder what is the one movie that no one will accidentally put into a search to watch a review on?
Well, I picked this one because I like Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
I own the movie.
Yeah.
It's technically a vampire movie.
And you wanted to watch it
And I
again.
want to watch it again.
Okay.
It's been a decade since I've watched it. I'm like, fuck it. When
So-
else am I going to talk about?
Hey, why don't we look at that vampire criteria and see how close this was to being a real vampire movie?
I'm going to guess two. Two of the.
We don't normally guess.
I'm gonna guess 3
All right.
We don't normally.
out of 18.
I think the first one is blood dependency.
Blood dependency.
Yeah,
Yes.
they need transfusions.
They need blood transfusion. They are dependent on blood. Luckily, we said blood dependency and not drink blood.
But no motherfucker ever bit any other motherfucker in the entire time in this movie.
Every single person who got infected that we saw was they got blood on their finger, or they got blood on their face, or they got blood just sprayed on them.
I think in this movie they called them vampires as kind of a derogative.
Yeah.
Therefore,
it was like a racial slur.
Therefore, biting people would have been derogative.
Interesting.
Vampires.
Then why have the sharp teeth?
Because it's a side effect.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Immortality.
No. Did not appear so. No.
Quite the opposite. Physical prowess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They even says that like we're not superhuman strong, and then she goes on in the movie to do superhuman stuff. But then you watch the rest of the hemophages or whatever, and they're not superhuman. They're just better.
Until you go into the place where like the head chode knocker was, and the guys were like, "We're as fast as you, we're strong as you," and then she was like, "Chop, chop, 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 chop," and the guy's like, "Oh, I guess I fucking lied."
That's what I was saying. I think she's got action hero superhuman powers, which I think are separated from the vampire. Because we watched the rest of the vampires, and they're better.
Yeah.
Well,
but they're not like superhumanly better.
Y'all just made the argument in the well scene where it was 10 seconds to cross, and I felt like it was agonizing along. If they were moving just as fast as her too, then they were also.
They were. They have some. It's just not what we typically associate with vampires.
So it's like they would be maybe like top human, whereas superhuman applies beyond. Like the use of superhuman is beyond human. So, like, if it's something a person can do, that might be, like, peak physical condition, but it's not, like, beyond human capability.
So, does it check the box?
I would say a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's just physical prowess. She is better.
Sure.
But I think a lot of it is because...
Sure.
But I think a lot of it is due to her being main character. Magical prowess?
No.
Magical blood?
No.
Like, as in, it heals you, it does, like, all the special stuff.
Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, like crazy.
It's infected.
Well, wait a minute. The kid becomes a hemophage at the end of the movie, and he's got magical blood.
That's not really because of magical blood. That's more of that's science.
I mean, I guess that
it changed his DNA.
It is a transferable by blood disease, so maybe it's kind of like
fast acting.
Yeah,
which they made a point to say it was fast acting in the beginning, so it was.
So does it check the box?
No.
I don't know if it fully checks the box.
Okay.
I don't think it does.
Just let it be known to the record that I would like an asterisk put by this one.
I would think so, too. I would put an asterisk. I don't know that I would put a check.
Okay. Asterisk.
Whereas it's because
this is science, not magic, and therefore, no.
Yeah. It being magical blood, it's not magical blood, but it is a blood-borne disorder. Therefore, it is in the blood.
It's a virus.
Yeah.
They said it was a virus.
Asterisk.
Yeah.
No.
I'm fine with asterisks.
See how she treats me?
Nigh unkillable?
No.
Well, she was.
Well, it's because she's main character. Shape-shifting?
No.
Distinct appearance?
No. The fangs.
The fangs is it.
And the hair colory changey. And
that was not.
That's her.
That was the closest. The courier had that shit. The other courier had that shit. So it seems to be a fashion choice.
Okay.
Coffin dependency?
No.
Monstrous predatory?
No.
Tragic figure? I mean, you lived 12 years.
Yeah.
And your entire race has been hunted out of extinction.
Yeah, okay.
I'd give it to him.
Sure.
Randy, she's the opposite of Randy.
No. She was very nihilistic.
She's horny to
except for her.
Horny to kill shit.
Well, it's like her.
Except for her surrogate son.
Oh, it's the guy who was kind of like, you know how I'm feeling about you. She's like, well, I can't stand that stuff because it goes away. So she's kind of that whole, like, I can't love because it'll just be gone.
I hate to be this guy, but she was pregnant at the beginning of the movie, so she liked getting down at some point. So I would say, Randy, check that box.
Well, that was a human.
That was when she was human, not when she was a hemophage.
If you can't take her at her vampire, you can't have her at her human.
Okay.
Randy, no.
Hierarchy?
No.
Sunlight weakness?
I mean, it depends on the hemophage.
I'd say no.
It's barely there, and it's only in the vision.
Everybody was taking off their glasses in the sunlight.
I think it's more of like imagine you have like permanent night vision, because like when they were in the dark, they could see. I think because their eyes are supposed to just be like wider, like dilated or whatever. So I think they take in little bits of light better.
So it's daylight blindness, basically.
Yeah. I think it's more of like drow vision than like vampire burnt in the sunlight sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd say that doesn't check the box though.
Not really. I mean, sunlight weakness, like not the way you'd expect it. Holy weakness, no. Water weakness, no.
No.
Water weakness, no. Silver weakness, no.
No.
Garlic weakness, no.
No.
There's like two that like we're like, yeah, absolutely, and then like two were kind of like, meh, not really.
Now I gotta find. Okay, so we watched this movie, right? Barely fits the criteria of a vampire movie, at least what we're looking for in the classic sense. Yet he shot me down on the vampire movie with Nicolas Cage on it, and he's like, "Nah, it's not a vampire movie."
Well, it's not. I mean, we could watch it if you want, but it's not a vampire movie. It's a movie about a crazy guy.
Who thinks he's a vampire?
Yes.
But it's not a vampire.
It's not a vampire.
I bet that movie checks off more boxes than this movie.
I bet it checks off 0 boxes.
He's got to bite at least somebody.
But that is a crazy man biting a person.
You got your A, you got your B's.
Got your A's, you got your B's. I know what movie you're talking about. And again, we could watch it. I don't think it's a vampire movie. It's got vampire in the title, so therefore maybe it fits. But this one,
definitely say it does.
People get called vampires like 3 times in this movie. So they throw it around. They call people vampires. They're getting hunted for what they are. They do need blood to live. It's just, it's a bloodborne disease, not a supernatural curse.
All right. Well, yeah. Movie, while enjoyable, was just.
It's fine. It's interesting. There's a lot of stuff in it that's kind of fun. I think if you like Equilibrium and you've seen that movie, you might like this one. If you've seen this movie and not seen Equilibrium, I think Equilibrium is worth
Watch
a watch.
Equilibrium first.
Because essentially it's got that same
I
sort
think
of...
you would enjoy it more.
Yeah, I think Equilibrium is a better movie than this. If I remember right, it's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I think the message... I think like the overarching themes and message behind Equilibrium that's going on around the society are much more compelling than what we saw in that. Although if you think about it, both movies are these scary dystopic visions of our actual future.
Oh, and it's like this envisions a future in which like there was a disease that was a problem and the government was so good at solving it. He's like, I need to invent a new problem for me to solve.
Yeah. And then Equilibrium
we're not talking about
also has
has
something that's also hits sometimes a little too close to home. That's all I was going to say. I wasn't going to spoil it.
It's a good movie. Eventually, we're going to review it in some capacity or form. So watch it ahead of time so you don't have to turn off the video.
Yeah. So I think, one of the reasons I wanted to watch this again is because I remember people walking around in masks and like, for the most part, at the time when you watch it, you're like, okay, that's a thing they do. Like, as a courtesy in Japan, like when you're sick, you wear a mask because you don't want to spread it to people because you think about other people. But like for the most part over here, that's not like a thing. And then like 2020 happened, and that became much more prevalent to see out around town. I wanted to watch this movie again to kind of like see how much it felt modern, I guess, in kind of a weird way.
And it kind of was.
Yeah.
Just like in the fashion choice or whatever.
This is like the opening.
Oh yeah, where they drop the bowling balls.
And now Black Noir is going to go kill a bunch of scientists.
Yeah.
That was the opening.
The kinetic. I'm going to stab myself in the heart swords. And
yeah, it's because that's where their null space thingy was.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It was interesting. It's an
interesting movie.
There's a lot of really interesting concepts, and I could see how they gave themselves a lot of room to really explore the world. It just needed to be, I think, a little better executed in order to make the money to do it.
Yeah, I think so. This movie was based off no comic book, pretended like it was, or kind of envisioned a comic book that they were basing off of. I think it could have been cool as a comic book, or like an anime or something like a series.
Graphic novels are a thing.
I think it could have been cool like that, and you might be able to make something kind of fun and dystopian and weird, following that sort of storyline. Whereas in a movie, in like 94 minutes or whatever it was, it was okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
I felt like this movie was a lot longer than 94 minutes. Yep, 94 minutes, yeah. Okay. It just felt like 2.5 hours. Got
it. Are you saying the movie dragged?
It didn't drag. It was just...
There was slow bits, and then, like, again, you had slow bits, you had some action-y bits, and it kind of flowed between them.
What year was this made?
2006.
2006? Okay. Watch it. It's fun.
Yeah, that's fine.
The question, though, is, Nick, does it suck?
Almost. It bites about as much as this movie did, which was very little.
Lance?
This movie nibbles.
Yeah, maybe the IVs.
Yep.
Yeah, this movie's a total blood transfusion.
Yeah, this movie blood transfusions. I think that's where it's at.
Could not say it better. Yep.
All right. Well, I guess join us next month for, I think it's your pick next.
Yeah, I guess it's Vampire's Kiss, most likely, from the sounds of it.
We'll find out.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Well, I know the movie I wanted to watch last time is no longer available to watch, so I'll see if I can dig something up between then and now. So...
Maybe next month it'll be Morbid time.
Okay. Ooh. Ooh. It's Morbid time, baby.
Maybe not.
No, I wouldn't do that to us.
I would. I absolutely would. All right. Well, I guess join us next month for whatever Lance picks.
Morbius.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.